Dead Redemption 2 is quite an achievement. And by that we mean it's a seriously impressive game, both in terms of its story and its gameplay. And we're still reeling over its sheer scale and ambition, even after sinking dozens of hours into it. But let's break that down, shall we? Even if it's just so we have an excuse to show you how beautiful it is with all this lovely new gameplay capture. So, main story spoiler free, but be wary if you want to go into the game totally fresh. Here are 6 things we loved about Red Dead Redemption 2, and 1 thing we didn't. First off, this world is incredible. From the blue sky country of the heartlands of Valentine to the snowy northern mountains and the southern swamps, to the bright lights of Saint Denis and far, far beyond, everywhere you look is a marvel. And just when you think the game has peaked in terms of what it can show you and how much it can show you, it just keeps going. If there's ever a point at which Red Dead Redemption 2's sunsets and sunrises stop wowing, we haven't found it yet. If you were the kind of player that never fast travelled in Red Dead Redemption 1 because you just enjoyed exploring the western wilds and taking in their sights on horseback, you are not going to be disappointed here. World building doesn't just extend to how things look and sound either. The wilderness comes to life in so many other ways, and sometimes just sitting back and watching the world turn can be fascinating enough.
You'll die, boy. But you'll lose your balls first.
But you'll want to push on with the story eventually, because it is vast, spinning out in so many different directions, and yet all of its threads keep coming back together in surprising and satisfying ways. In Red Dead Redemption 1, John Marston was mostly a lone operator, but here in Red Dead 2, set many years before its predecessor, Arthur Morgan is extremely loyal to Dutch van der Linde's gang, and providing for this bunch of misfits and outlaws is at the heart of everything you do. You rob, steal, and kill to put food on the table and plan a better future for a scraggly bunch of ne'er-do-wells, and the story will make sure that you care about every single one of them. After a slightly slow opening, it's a good thing that Red Dead Redemption 2 gives you so much ground to cover, because you'll be travelling with, spending time, and getting to know every single member of the gang over the course of the game. And by not too long, every single one of them will feel like family, even the ones you constantly bicker with. Each character gets their own chance to shine, and even the ones that seem one-dimensional will prove to be way more complex and interesting before long. The group dynamic is a brilliant way of expanding upon the story structure of Red Dead Redemption 1, but without interesting characters to carry it, it could have become tedious. Instead, what you have is a narrative that has you completely hooked and willing to do anything to keep your family safe, which is why it feels like a bullet through the heart when things can and do go wrong. And boy, when things go wrong in outlaw country, the horse manure really does hit the fan. That said, sometimes it does feel like the mission types haven't strayed very far from the ones set up in the original Red Dead Redemption, but there's enough variation here to keep things interesting.
Yes? Did the university send you?
In addition to the main story, Red Dead Redemption 2 carries on the legacy of its predecessor by having optional stranger side missions crop up on the map. And although optional they may strictly be, you really do owe it to yourself to try them out. Some, complete with branching choices, do actually have an impact on Arthur's own personal story. Some are simply just quite funny, and others will yield useful resources or information that can help you on your journey. Certain side missions will have multiple parts that you can complete as you move through the main story and the world, or collect items that strangers are looking for, while other quests will be one-offs. But they are all almost always memorable. Be mindful though that sometimes they may not be what they first appear, and often unavoidably cost money or affect your honour rating. But it's nothing you can't win back for the cause of a great adventure. It's actually impressive how many of these missions don't end in a shootout or a fistfight, to be honest.
Can I help you?
Hey. Hello, chum.
Chum?
Even when you aren't actively pursuing a quest though, there's never a moment when you're stuck for something to do. Random events return from Red Dead Redemption 1, where opportunities arise in which you can help folks on the road, take advantage of them, or be robbed by them. Some of these events may be as simple as giving money to a wounded homeless war vet, or saving a man bitten by a snake and slowly dying by the side of the road. But sometimes, even though it may seem easier to just pass on by, helping others may have other unforeseen benefits.
Help me! Help me!
For example, give medicine to someone in need and the next time you're in town, they might see you and repay the debt tenfold. Or a drunkard might appreciate you sparing a little change enough to give you a hot tip on where a big score can be found. Or save someone who's been poisoned and you'll garner enough knowledge of that poison to be able to add it to arrowheads and throwing knives. It really is amazing where these seemingly inconsequential events can take you. You should also be on the lookout for other interesting things too. Looting the corpses of bandits can provide information as to where you can find big stashes. Diffusing bar brawls and domestic disputes can net you new friends, and in one particularly grisly find, we stumbled upon and followed a blood trail, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, and opened up a hunt for a serial killer that we've yet to see through to the end. There's bound to be yet more out there, still to be uncovered. All that, and we haven't even touched on crafting or cooking or hunting yet. But one of the many great things about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that it doesn't force you to micromanage to that extent if all you really want to do is focus on just enjoying the world and the story. You can get lost in the wilds for days hunting legendary creatures, tracking down animal parts to improve your equipment and the comfort of your camp. You can go about picking wild herbs to make tonics and garnishes to improve the flavour and benefits of your food. But you'll never have to grind any of this stuff if you don't want to. You'll keep a steady stock of medicines and provisions just by looting as you go, or by buying them at the general store or at the local doctor's office. And your health, stamina and deadeye skills will improve naturally as you play through the campaign. It's all a little bit intimidating when you first start the game, and it talks a big talk about keeping your health and stamina cores filled by regularly eating, wearing the right clothes so you aren't too hot or too cold, and regularly cleaning your guns to keep them in good working condition. But these aren't things you'll be constantly worried about. Rather, they're neat little extra layers of immersion that never go so far as to hinder you just enjoying yourself. The same goes for hunting and fishing, or even playing games in any number of the local taverns. There are loads of challenges you can focus on and rewards you can reap. Or you can always come back to them later if there are other pursuits you'd rather prioritise in the meantime. And that's the really impressive thing. For how completely vast Red Dead Redemption 2 is, you shouldn't feel pressured to move things along, complete the story, or cover ground quickly. You won't want to anyway. This is a game you'll want to take your time with and savour, exploring every opportunity and sniffing out every lead. The world rewards players who do this too. Holding L2 and interacting with friends, people and objects will open various different avenues, highlighting local rumours and illuminating conversations. Someone at camp might ask you to bring them something for a favour. You can pat friendly dogs. Stare at someone too long and they might take offence, but there's always a way to diffuse a tense situation without falling back on your pistol. And if it does come to that, you might have to lay low or pay off a bounty, but you can almost always come back and finish an activity later at your leisure. Trust us, it's going to take a long time to experience everything Red Dead 2 has to offer, so just take your time and enjoy. So, the one thing we didn't like about Red Dead Redemption 2? Well, honestly, there was nothing we truly disliked. But if we were nitpicking, there were a couple of bugs and glitches that we encountered that sometimes caused us to have to reload or lose items or progress. Sometimes NPCs would attack us for seemingly no reason. Sometimes the game would take over and Arthur would just wander off in a random direction. Objects and people would disappear, teleport or float in space. And once, while robbing a bank, a door swung shut and locked us clean out of the building while all our colleagues continued on inside. These were mostly funny, but they can also be irritating when you're lost in the moment. In a similar vein, sometimes the contextual controls can betray you and have you fumbling around to pick up your hat, only to hoist a dead body over your shoulders instead. The instances in which the controls become fiddly won't ruin your enjoyment of the world altogether, not by a long shot, but it just pulls you out of it from time to time.
Wide world I wander over, with a light, light heart I roll along.
In the grand scheme of things though, these are tiny issues in a huge, groundbreaking game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an astounding technical achievement and a great western yarn to boot, complete with one of the richest game worlds we've ever experienced. We'll likely be enjoying that world for quite some time too, with the addition of multiplayer modes in the not too distant future. We'll be working on plenty more Red Dead Redemption 2 videos until then, so make sure you like, subscribe and hit that bell icon to keep up to date with more of our adventures. We'll see you out there on the dusty trail. Thanks for watching. Bye!
That was pretty good. But you know, what song we should be singing?
What?
Well, look at us. 3 mariners.
Ah, of course!
Well, we be 3 poor mariners newly come from the seas. We spend our lives in jeopardy while others live at ease. Shall we?